Okay, folks, I can see that we are live. Can you hear me well? In the chat, I don't know if there are much people watching right now. I'm just a few minutes late. Sorry about that. This can happen at times. Yeah, so I hope that you guys can hear me well. Let me check, but the microphone level seems to be okay. Uh, yeah, so we should be good to go. As always, if there's any problem on your side with the sound, please do let me know. We're gonna wait a minute or two to allow people that would potentially want to join to have the opportunity to. I'm just seeing the screen jumping a little on the YouTube version, so I'm just making sure that it's working fine for you and that there's no problem there. But yeah, now it seems like it was just a momentary thing. Cool. Okay, let's just, as usual, wait a minute or two and then we'll be able to start. I would like to start on my side anyway by telling you that I feel better. I was a bit sick, as you guys know, the last couple of weeks. Pretty much caught the flu, and the flu this year is really no joke. It kept me for quite a while directly in it kept me pretty much in bed for a couple of days. Not so bad on that end, but it's just for me to fully recover and not be coughing every 2 minutes. That literally took 2.5 weeks. So yeah, that wasn't fun. I'm glad that this is sorted. Um, and yeah, I see that we start to have people joining in the chat, so we will be able to start. We will start with the easy fight as usual. Let me just start the event because that's the most important part on the admin side. That's the easy fight we'll start with. I can tell you that we will have Perokl Monte Cristo, St. John, Trusischka, and Russian name that I have no idea how to pronounce. Sorry about that. We'll have Gorkamorka with MarzooTV, Aniviper.ALT, and yeah, the rest of the list is anyway available for you guys to check directly in the description of the video or on Discord. So, okay, we should be able to start now. Let's roll things. Seems like everything is set up. We should be good to go. And yeah, we have Perokl, so that's pretty much what we expected. That's cool. Since I'm seeing it right away from the first start, and I know this is a topic for a lot of you guys, yes, the displacer unit will get another nerf, um, either with the very last season or the one after that. I do not know yet if the nerf will be actually a nerf in itself or rather buffing a lot more units against it. And what I mean by this is adding the immunity to a lot more units that basically should not be able to be moved by the displacer. Um, that's something that is still looking into. From my perspective, there are two things that are likely to happen. One of them is to further increase the cooldown between two displacing and to have pretty much all of the massive units from the design side, the units that are not groups, etc., or that are supposed by their design to be very heavy, to be immune to the displacer. So to the teleport, since that's the name of the, yeah, if I remember correctly, that's the name of the actual skill used by this unit. So that's what we're looking at, most likely to nerf the displacer units. One thing that was considered as well is to increase the rarity of the unit. So far, the reason why we are not favoring this option is that while it's a good way to nerf it, there's also a bit of there's something unfair in doing it this way, because it means anyone that leveled it up until now will have a very heavy advantage over anyone that would level it up afterwards. Because if we increase the rarity, it's going to be harder to level it up. Um, and so, yeah, that's something that could be a bit of a problem here. So that's why we are paying attention to that. I'm sorry, but I have to ask. On my side, the screen on YouTube is super blurry, but it seems to come and go. I believe it's my connection because it's that pixelated as fuck. Sorry for the F word. It's extremely pixelated. But as soon as I um, actualize the game and the window, it looks good. On my monitor, where the game is being recorded, everything is looking sharp and as it should. And see here, I just reactualized and it's looking fine now. So I believe it's just on my side. But please, if the screen is super pixelated on your side for the stream, please let me know. We'll make sure to look into it right away and see if there's anything we need to take care of. We already just have a few players left to go um, for the easy section. So we will probably be moving very fast to the hardcore and advanced mode. And since there were a few mistakes in the forms this week, I would also like to remind everyone that you should be careful when you're putting your player tag in the form. We have regularly players that are either putting a zero instead of a O, or that are simply misspelling their account. And I know that because when I put them in the tool will basically tell me, hey, this account does not exist. At times, I am able to kind of guess what it is, and then I can see if the player is still active and if they've been registering regularly for the fight night. I kind of know that it's them, so I'm trying to add them. But there are cases where I have no idea where the mistake is, and in those situations, it's a bit sad because you're kind of losing an opportunity to participate. So that's something we need to keep an eye on. And we are already on the last account, which is Unscorched. Unscorched. It's super tough for me to pronounce this name. I don't know why. Unscorched. Yeah, see, I'm doing my best, and it's still not very good. Anyway, I see that we have a few more people that joined us. Since I don't see you telling me in this chat that the sound is terrible or the video is terrible, it seems like everything is fine on that end. And that's definitely a good thing. So that means as well, since we are done pretty much with the easy fight, we will be able to start also talking about what's coming next into the game. There are a couple of things you guys already know that are coming, and there are a couple of things actually that I can share with you that you might not be expecting. So the first thing actually coming pretty much in the coming days at this point, and that I am simply going to announce to the whole community tomorrow. We already talked about it, but I can now confirm that the end of the season rewards are coming with the end of this season. So I will share the details tomorrow. And that means for the few last days of the season, people will probably, at least at the very top of the leaderboard, try to fight to stay at their rank. What are those rewards? It's partly cosmetics, so you will have a title to display, and this title will only be active for the coming season. So if you want to keep getting this title and to have it increment into um, higher numbers, etc., you need to try to keep this rank going forward. You will also have some rewards in different currencies. Nothing extremely over the top, because the point is not to make it completely unfair to anyone that would not be at the top positions. But there will be some rewards so that you have an incentive to go for it. Let me trigger the events for the hardcore slash advanced mode. Yes, there we go. So we will be starting with Gustin, we have Forain, we have Aniviper, Sam, King Elric, Valdian, Skarsgård, Said, The Hack, Karun, Jasper, Crashly, The Backdoor, Benuzet, Jam, Michael Myers, Dead Ripping Hood, Ager, Shiver, and Sakura. And I'm gonna stop there because that's already like 20 players. Not gonna give you the whole list. You can check for it directly, uh, as you know. But let's go with it. Um, so yeah, the end of season rewards for now and for this first trial, it's only gonna be the top 5 of the season that are gonna get a reward. But in a few seasons time, we're going to be expanding that. My guess is that within a few seasons, we will be rewarding probably the top 25 or maybe up to the top 50 or something like this. The idea is to have mostly people to try and fight for those ranks at the end of the season. Something we explained quite a few times, but I want to reiterate that one thing that is weird, very weird with Battle Legion is that in the second week of the season, people want to get to the top because they can get their title. Cool. But once they do that, they have no incentive to try to stay at the top. So that means competition wise, it's actually best if as many players as possible reach the top position because then you have as many people as possible that have the title. And while it's okay that a lot of people get the title, it's a bit weird to me that at least for the very end of the season, there's barely no fight going on to keep their rank. And with this change, we are not expecting a lot of changes for the entire season. We are expecting changes to come within the last day, pretty much, because that's when the rankings will really matter and people will try to keep their rank. So that's one thing we're adding. The other thing that is coming very soon now will be finally the GRB rewards update. As you know, we had a lot of issues with the GRB, with some players being locked out of the event. I can finally announce that this is resolved. You have no idea how much I have hoped for this announcement to come. At the moment, we have one player that still claims to be locked, and we're looking into it. It seems to be extremely account specific because of all the other players that contacted us saying they were locked, they all were able to get back into the game. The ones that contacted us and that we're in touch with. So that's very positive. They also received a compensation for that, and yeah, we are finally able to move forward with some more changes to the GRB. That means the next event will probably return to the other boss, which is a bit more fun, and will also include the updated rewards. Updated rewards for the GRB are going to include the prismatic fragments for some of the higher ranks in the leaderboards, and there will be a few other changes to the rewards as well. Now, the next thing that is coming to Battle Legend, which I think we never teased too directly because we were still investigating how we could do it, is actually a change to factions. In the current way the game works, one thing that has always seemed odd to us is that factions and your pick of units from X or Z faction makes no difference except for immunities that some factions will have to certain effects. And that's cool. But in any game where you would have a faction system, what you would expect to see is that units from a certain faction also have pretty much an edge over one other faction type and a debuff against one other faction. So that's something we'll be introducing into the game to add another level of strategy that is not even gonna require you, it's not something where you need to use a currency or do anything. It's just gonna be there to change a bit the way the meta is currently going, but also change how you have to think about your armies, because you might want to mix up factions a bit more to cover the ground of these buffs and debuffs a bit more. One thing we also want to make clear is that those debuffs and buffs will not be super strong, right? It's not going to be like a 25% damage increase or 25% damage resistance um, for a faction compared to the other. We are more talking, like a few percent up and down, at least for us to see how this is performing, how this is going. And if it goes fine, what we plan to do is to then have regularly faction wars. It's something we tried, if I remember correctly, in November, where we kind of buffed and debuffed some units from certain factions. But here we would be able to do it more globally. So for an entire faction, there would be a weekend where their buff is slightly stronger. And so that will push all the players to go for that specific faction or for their debuffs and to try to work their way around that. And that will create something a bit exciting. And most likely, that would be something we would alternate with the Twisted Curse kind of event. So the idea would be, you have one era where you will have the Twisted Curse event, and you will have another era where you would have this faction war event at the end of the era. Or maybe if it's super popular, if people like it, it might happen directly at another point in the era. But that would be a short event anyway, probably something like a week or so, pretty much like the Twisted Curse event. The reason why I see it to be alternating with the Twisted Curse event is because it seems like having it happening at the end of the season will be the easiest way to go. So this is something that is coming up quite quickly, because the plan is to have this most likely in February or early March to have it released. After that, the big change, which you guys are already aware of, will be um, the whole UI change with the commander features and with the battle reports. Just letting you know that since we talked about that a bit the last time, we have checked with the team, and more than likely, we will not be showing your power stones to your opponents at the end of a fight in the battle reports. And more than likely, what we will look into is on the future to add um, a spying type of feature that could allow you to see part of the power stones of your opponents. But that would be something you would have to either use a specific currency for, or to use a bit of gold or something like this. So you will kind of have to trade off a little if you really want to have those details, and you will not be able to see all of it anyway. So the idea would be to make it kind of a situation where the people that kind of want to know what their opponents are using power stones wise, especially for new to intermediate players that are still trying to optimize their use of power stones, that can help them a lot to have a better grasp on the game and understand better the correlations between power stones. And at the same time, for those that really want to protect their setup, they don't have to be worried that everyone would be able to know right away what they're using. That wouldn't be the case. And that's most likely, anyway, something that would come at a later stage. At the beginning, you will not be able to see your opponent's power stones. That's the most likely. And yeah, that's going to be a big change for the game. For the UI change, it is also very likely that at first you will have the old user interface and you will have the option to switch to the new one. This way, you guys have the time to get used to the new one, compare it back to back between the old and the new one, and to provide us feedback and for us to see if there are things that we should really change because it's really not working well for you or whatever. On the longer run, though, keep in mind that we will still move to that new UI. So it's not like we will keep the toggle to switch between the old and the new one forever. The main reason why we will not do this is because, think about it, anytime we want to add a new feature, even something as basic as a news pop-up or anything like this, it would have to be added to the two UIs and to work on the two UIs. And that means, the QA testing for every single thing in the game will be twice longer. The art assets would have to be tested on two environments, etc. So it wouldn't work. But on the short term, when this change will come, you will very likely have the option to switch between the two, probably for a couple of weeks at least, for you guys to be able to give us some feedback in case there's anything that really it has to change, um, and that we couldn't foresee. Then that's something we'll be able to take care of. But ultimately, we will still make this move to the new UI. And I would like to remind everyone, in case some of you that are watching never heard me talk about this new user interface, it's not going to change the in-fight window. So the one you're seeing right now, this one is not going to change. You will still have your split screen the way it is. It's that's the identity of the game. We're not planning on changing that um, in the in the foreseeable future, even for years. I really don't think you will see that change. Here we're really talking more about the menuing, the display of your currencies, and the game modes and those kind of things. Because right now it's making less and less sense. Like, why is it that the red boss has a specific button, but then the other events are on the event place, and then if you want to fight normally, you go through the fight button, which this one will still be there. But then if you want to have a friendly fight, you go through the leaderboards. There's just it's not ideal to make it this way when you could just have one place where all the game modes will be displayed and make it a lot easier for people to navigate. It will also allow us to make the entire shop section a lot better, because right now this one is a mess as well. It's super busy with all the tabs and all the stuffs, and we want to make it more modern. So there are things that are going to change. You will have the commander screen as well. That will be pretty much what you will arrive on when you're launching the game. And that's going to be also allowing you to see the news about the game a bit better without necessarily having to open the news tab or those kind of things. So we are reworking a lot of elements, but I think you guys will enjoy this. It's going to be a fun change for for the bigger part. Of course, as always, with a change like that, it will take a bit of time to get used to it. It's kind of expected, but yeah. Sorry, even though I recovered from the flu, if I speak for too long, if I talk for too long, it still happens that my throat gets a bit sore. It's also a bit weird because um, I have a voice that is very particular, as you guys know. And so a lot of people don't notice if I'm actually sick or not. But I do. I know if my voice is normal. See, I could see that coming. So I knew I was coughing and I needed to drink a little and ease a little the speech and calm things down a little. Um, okay, so yeah, the UI change, it's gonna be the big change coming. We're still talking March to April, I would say, for this. The change to the factions will come before that. The rewards at the end of the season, it's coming for Monday. And the GRB rewards will come the week after that with the next GRB. So coming next, new end of the season league rewards, then new GRB rewards, then the big UI change. The big UI change, I'm telling you, March or April, that's a very conservative approach. Ideally, we want that to happen early in March, but because it's such a big change, I don't want to give a date and say yeah, early March, and then at the end of March we see that it will be early April or something like this. So I prefer, for now at least, to keep it a bit vague and say March, April. The one thing I can tell you though is that when it's gonna be, um, when I'm gonna get a final deadline of when we plan it, we will showcase in a live stream the new UI. So that's something I checked with the team. So I do not know yet if I will just be showing you pretty much what it's going to look like, but without interacting with it. So just showing you, okay, this is the commander screen, this is the game mode menu, this is the shop, and just showing you some screenshots of what it's going to look like, or if I will directly be able to show it to you. The reason why it's not clear is because if I want to show it to you, I might need to do it within a Unity editor. And I must admit that showcasing Unity editor, first of all, I need to know how to make it work. But showcasing the Unity editor and at the same time streaming, I'm not sure that it will be that smooth technically, but we can look into it. The other option that I'm thinking about is to have the team shoot a short video of the UI, so showing you some of the different elements. That would be quite cool. Of course, you're not going to see it like a month before it gets released, so that will probably be, in the week prior to the release or something like this. But we will do our best to showcase this new UI to you directly. Oh, this is a big army this time. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Anything you want to ask? Because we still have quite a lot of players to go on. I can talk a bit more about some of the things that are coming, but I also want to make sure if there are any questions that we address them, because that's very important. Um, yeah, so that's always something I'm going to ask. But if you have any question, please make sure to get into the chat and share that with us, please. So what can I tell you outside of what we already discussed? Yeah, one thing, because I posted about that on Discord just earlier today. Some of you might have seen it, some of you probably didn't. There is currently an issue with the Ice Demon unit against Volcanus. It's been there for a little while now, but we were not able to fully understand what was going on. But thanks to a player, I don't want to say something wrong, so I'm just gonna recheck who was it that actually brought it to us. Just a second. Oh, it was actually the hack who will be or just was in the stream actually a few minutes ago. Yeah, we already played against the hack earlier today. So the hack shared with us that he had a pretty good understanding of where the issue came from, and he was right. So our team was able to confirm that this was the source of the problem, and we're fixing it. Long story short, when we did one of the balancing changes to the Ice Demon, which I believe happened in mid-December, if I remember correctly, what happened is that we changed the range for the the attack and the placement of this unit, but it's not been changed exactly how it should. So what happened there is that the Ice Demon now has a range of 14 instead of 12, so it has a longer range, which means that it stops when it's at 14 of the unit that it's supposed to aim at, which makes sense. But the beam is still set to 12, which means that pretty much as long as an enemy is moving towards the demon, there's no problem. The enemy will reach the old range, and the beam will start, and the demon will attack. The problem is that if the enemy is blocked by melee units, as it happens pretty much with Volcanus on this kind of situation, then the demon will stay at 14 because that's its range, but the beam can only aim at 12. So the beam is simply not going to work. Um, to be fair, what I just explained, I honestly simply read, sorry, I just read through the explanation that the ACK shared with us because it's incredibly accurate. That's incredibly simple to understand. And it was very easy to get what it is from that point on. I'm saying it and I'm naming the hack about this point because it seems like the hack understood what was going on precisely in December. And we've had a few reports of that on our side starting in January on the support side. I think I've seen someone mentioning it on Discord early in January as well. I don't think I've seen reports of it before, but most importantly, what I was seeing was report that the unit was not working as intended, but we didn't really know why. And the problem is the team, since they were just trying to reproduce it in a rather random setup, basically they could still see that the unit was attacking, so they couldn't really get what was going on. Because in order to replicate it, they needed a unit that would be blocked by melee units when it's pretty much at 14 of distance off the ice demon, but not at 12 either. So it had to be in this very short window. And the thing is, because of that, our team was not able to directly find out what was going on. And so there was a very first investigation that was very short. And since they couldn't find right away what was going on, it basically entered the bug list to look into a bit deeper. Thing is, players, because they have the possibility to focus on that issue when they were facing it, people like the hack, people that have a great knowledge of the game, they were able to find out precisely what was happening. And that's amazing. I often say it, but you guys have an expertise of the game that is unmatched and very, very, very valuable. Of course, a developer that is working on checking a unit, or even if it's the game designer sometimes that is debugging that, they have a very different perspective because what they're looking at is just, is the unit behaving according to the data that matches it? And so they look at it from a different perspective, and sometimes it can get hard to replicate exactly what the players see, unless, as the hack just did today, the players share with us an exact scenario of the issue that they were facing. Because in this case, then, yeah, as soon as the hack shared this explanation, I shared it with the team. And within 30 seconds, they were like, yeah, that's exactly right. We know what value we need to change. And that's actually going to be fixed. I have a strong trust in the fact that it's going to be fixed by Monday for the next season. If it's not by Monday, that would be for the following season, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be by Monday. So again, thank you, the hack, for this. And just message for anyone: if there's a bug in the game right now for which you know why it's happening, do not hesitate to report the bug, but do not hesitate to report your even your um, assumption of why it's happening. Even if you might be wrong, but it's a precious help, because imagine that you're a developer and you have a lot of other tasks on your desk and you're asked to look into a unit behavior and you don't have a precise scenario to look into. You're just going to try to reproduce rather randomly the scenario, and if you're not able to, you will basically say, okay, we need to investigate more time on it, let's add it to the bug list and let's look at it as soon as we can. But right now I have all these other tasks for which I know exactly what I have to do and they need to be fulfilled, right? Sadly, we do not always have the opportunity to spend X days just looking at a scenario like this to find what's going on. In your case, as a player, it's not that you have way more time than us. Is that when you face a bug like this, you know what scenario triggered it. So it's usually easier for you to just replicate it. And if you've been able to replicate it a few times, you might directly get an understanding of what is going wrong. The same thing happened actually. Um, I think it was earlier today as well, that a player shared a video of us of the issue via support. And I'm quite sure that actually, even without the hack explanation, the fact that we had a video of it might have already helped a lot the team. But still, it would have taken a bit more time than if we already have an assumptions to work with. So again, I'm not telling you you guys should do the work of our devs. I'm just saying, if you have an idea, if you feel like, hey, I'm quite sure it's because of that, please let us know. Just as an example, even myself, I have no idea about development and I'm no expert in Battle Legion by any means. But it already happened a fair amount of time that I was the one finding a solution for the devs simply because when they mentioned something, it reminded me of something that happened with the game a year ago, and potentially this developer wasn't there at that point or was working on another area of the game, so they were not aware of that issue that happened. I remembered it happened with another unit. I told them, hey, well, can we just check this? And that was enough to solve the issue. Not because I had an expertise or whatever, but simply because I had an assumption that they could work with, and that helped. There are also many times where I have assumptions that are wrong and are not helping the dev teams at all. But at least they have something to start with, and it's better to have an idea where to start than to have nothing. So all this big explanation is just to say again, if you're encountering a bug and you feel like you, yeah, sorry guys, my headset was turning off. Yeah, I changed the time before it turns off, but it still does at time. Um, so yeah, as I was saying, if you have an assumption of what's going on, or if you know at least how to 100% of the time replicate a bug, these kind of things can make a massive difference in getting us to fix the issues faster. So ultimately, we all benefit from it. If you have an idea, let us know. There's no downside to letting us know, pretty much. The only thing that can happen is that an issue either gets solved faster, or if it doesn't, at least there's one potential case, potential reason that has been taken out of the list. And so that's anyway making some progress. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Um, yeah, that's what I wanted to say there. Let me check where we stand here. We are currently, oh, of course, the moment I'm checking, I cannot see where we are anymore. We are fighting Foreign, yes. And Foreign is there. Okay, we have pretty much 40 players to go, 41. So 41, 42. Yeah, we're pretty much halfway through for the advanced hardcore fight. Great. Also, it is possible that with the next live stream, I start to level up some artifacts to level 6. It's not guaranteed, but my win rate gets pretty low in the hardcore fights. Um, and yeah, that might be a way to level the battlefield a little. And mostly it's because I start to see more and more people with at least one level 6 artifacts in their list. I'm not planning to have many level 6 artifacts in there, but one or two, maybe. Just saying maybe. That's a possibility. Let's put it this way. I'm checking, but actually today we have a few players that have never participated in the fight night. We will have a bit later, yeah, in about 20 players or so. We will have, where is it? We will have Lord Eru. Lord Eru, you apparently never participated in the fight night, so that's quite interesting. It's always cool to have new players. It's a bit surprising that you go right away for the hardcore advanced fights, but that's, bravery is important as well. And I think that's the only player that never participated before. Oh no, we also have Monk07B that will participate very soon. Um, and I missed it. Sorry. Yeah, we also had a few more. We had Mr. Bognar and we had Putu earlier. So Putu is very, very French of a nickname. Okay, so we had a few today. That's cool. Let me check for the players that are coming. Let me see. Lord Eru. Uh, huh. I think Lord Eru is likely to be. Yes, that's an account that is a missed typo. That's not good, guys. You have to be careful about how you type your name. I know it's a typo because that's an account that has not been active since 2020. So yeah, Lord Eru, you're all nice and everything, but I'm quite sure you didn't mean to be participating in the fight night, and um, that's too bad, to be honest. Let's check the other guys we're looking at that joined today. Mm, okay, Mr. Bognar, it's actually an account that is active right now, and it's just surprising that you never took part in the fight night before, but welcome to you. You have yeah, you have some leveled up artifacts, everything. That's cool, and yeah, glad to see you there. I said we had Mr. Putu as well. Checking this. I mean, it's a French name, right? I have to check it. Mr. Putu is an active player as well, so that seems like it's not a mistake of any sort. That's cool. It simply makes me feel better if I see that we have newcomers. They're actually newcomers to the fight night, and it's not a mistake. Uh, People that simply mistyped their account name. And yeah, Monk07B is also an active player. All cool. I see that there's another one called Vester. Let's see if Wester or Vester, I don't know how it's pronounced, depending on its account. It seems to be an active account as well. But Wester, I believe you probably wanted to fight in the easy normal fight. That's my guess though, because yeah, that's my case. That's my assumption simply because you don't have any tiered up artifacts yet. and yeah, you're an active player, but you're at level 14, rank 14. Sorry, I think it might be a bit tough for you to win this fight. But I mean, you're still gonna get some rewards, and you will definitely do better next time. So that's perfectly cool. So I'm just gonna pause a second here. Uh, yes, it's just so that I can take out the inactive accounts that we are talking about. There we go. Okay, and we can go back live. Yes. Okay, guys, sorry about that. I simply wanted to make sure that we were not going through an additional fight for a player that left in 2020 and is not even in the matchmaking anymore. That wouldn't make sense. Okay, guys, so it seems that today we're probably going to break the record for the least interactions in the chat ever. Um, yeah, that's something we'll need to work on. I know I've said it in the past, but there is a point where if no one is really joining those fight nights, we might not be able to continue that much going forward, which would be a shame because you have good opportunities um, to get some rewards from there. But I also need to justify those fight nights, and if we have less players watching them and less player joining the fight nights, even if we tried making the rewards better, even if we changed the format so that it's shorter, etc., there is a point where that will become a fight I cannot win. You know, I also need to convince the company and the people I work with that it's worth um, me spending this amount of time every other week on the fight night. So tell your friends, tell everyone, come and join and watch the fight night. It's fun. You get some news about the game. You get to listen to a voice that is definitely not pleasant, and I'm sorry about that. But I try to be as entertaining as I possibly can. And the last time we had a lot of chats, a lot of interactions going on, and when the chat is active, that's a lot better for everyone, a lot more entertaining. So let's make sure that we try to get as many people in as possible. We will be sharing, sorry, a questionnaire about the live stream very soon. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how we go from there. Okay, it froze for me for a second on YouTube. I do not know if it froze for you. If it's the case, please let me know. I'll try to have a look if there's anything I could be paying attention to there. We still have at the moment yeah, still have like 30 players to go roughly. So probably 20-ish minutes for you guys if you have any questions for me. Again, that's the moment. That's the time for you to ask questions about the game, questions about what's coming next, what you would like to see, etc. That's the moment. So yeah, let's go for that. Sorry guys, took a small talking break because that also helps me with my voice. As I told you, I'm still not 100% back to my regular self on the breathing side, thanks to that really annoying flu that I had a few weeks back. I hope that I will soon be 100% back because I felt like it was pretty okay lately. But now that I'm doing this exercise of speaking for an hour straight, I realize, yeah, I still need to recover a bit from that. I hope we will be able to get there very soon because spring is coming. I want to be able to enjoy that a little. Okay, so what else can I discuss with you? There's not so much I can tell you about what's coming to the game because we're already covering everything that will come in the 2 3 months that are coming, and after that is still a bit unclear. I don't want to give you hopes about things that will come quite further down the road, but we are still working on a few things for this year. Obviously, for the first half of the year, mostly. I mean, that will be quite interesting for you. Yeah, I will give you more details as we get closer. In the meantime, what can I tell you? Well, I don't know how many of you are American viewers. Obviously, this past weekend there was the Super Bowl, and I was delighted to see the Eagles win. Not because I care so much about American football, and not because, like a lot of people that were pissed against Kansas City or whatever. On my end, it's simply because I've always been a fan of Philadelphia's teams in absolutely every sport. I'm mostly a ice hockey fan, and I'm a huge fan of the Flyers since I was a kid, and I ended up on a Flyers game on the French TV on a weird channel in the middle of a winter break or winter holidays or something like this, and I ended up watching a game which was, if I remember correctly, it was the Flyers against, I think back then it was against the Rangers. And yeah, I simply fell in love with the way the Flyers were playing, etc. I fell in love with ice hockey, and I've been a fan of pretty much every Flyers team ever since. The problem is, yeah, outside of one very good year in 2010, we pretty much I never pretty much had the opportunity to witness a very good, solid team from the Flyers, and it's not looking too great for the few upcoming years at least. And for the Sixers, well, they have everything they should need to be a good team lately, but they still don't manage to do it. So, yeah, the Sixers as well. I'm not sure how long it will take before I can really enjoy what's going on there. So at least the Eagles are performing in the past few years. I can say they definitely brought us um, some reasons to be happy about. And yeah, maybe at one point in my life I will have the opportunity to go and visit Philadelphia. I think for a lot of people in Europe, Philadelphia is one of those American cities that look a tiny bit closer to what we are used to in Europe because it's one of those really oldest city from the US, and you know the architecture and those kind of things are a bit closer to what we're used to, at least for parts of the city. um, so that's one thing. And as I said, anyway, I'm not really objective simply because of the Flyers. So yeah, it's still one of my life goals is to be able to go there during the ice hockey season and go watch a game. I don't care who they play against. I don't even care if they win. Just being able to go to one of those games would be a great achievement. Let's see when that will happen. I don't have plans for the coming years to go to the US, but yeah, at one point we'll see if we can make that happen. Hmm. Okay, guys, we are fighting currently the keylogger, which is probably another account from the hack. I would suppose, like the DDoS, the rootkit, the exploits. Uh, who else do we still have? I think we've done most of them by now. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Well, this is over. So okay, now we are against Wester or Vester, which is one of those accounts that, as I was saying earlier, is a brand new account, rather active new player, but a player that does not have pretty much any tiered up artifacts yet. So as I expected, you should have picked the easy fight, my friend. Next time, make sure to pick the easy slash regular fight, and you might have your chances of winning a bit more gems there. So it's now 2 IQ. I always, when I see this nickname, I always hope that it's not really his IQ that is equal to 2, because that would be not so good. I mean, I'm not claiming that I have a super high IQ or whatever, but 2 seems pretty low to me. Like, I mean, technically not even possible, but you know what I mean. Hey guys, the performance is super bad on my side. I don't know how it is for you. So if you have anything weird happening on your side, like the screen is lagging or the resolution gets super low, please let me know, because on my side I'm seeing that since the beginning of the stream. But whenever I refresh the page on YouTube, at least it seems to look good. So I really believe it's just a small performance issue on my side. But yeah, if it manifests the same way on your side, please let me know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's happening for you as well, but it is definitely for me. So if that's something we need to fix, please let me know. Okay, so from Russia with love. Let's see how this fight ends. For those that didn't see the beginning of the stream, the displacer unit will be nerfed very soon, either for the next season or the following one. And the most likely scenario is that the displacer will see its cooldown being a bit longer and will give the immunity to way more units to the teleport function. That's the most likely to happen. The reason for it is that we don't want to reduce the range too much for two reasons. When you reduce the range of a unit like the displacer, we will need to change as well all the visual assets. Sorry, guys, my headset was acting a bit weird. So yeah, we don't want to reduce too much the range, because that would require a lot more work to be done, but also because ultimately reducing the range is not necessarily what will be the best to correct the unit. One thing that is also mentioned, I also explained that earlier, but for those that will only watch this part, quite a few players have asked that we simply increase the rarity of the units, so that basically it takes more of your army slots. And Ace car, yeah, it makes sense to change the displacer and have it nerfed a bit. That's for sure. Yeah, so why not just increase the rarity so that basically it takes more army points? That's an option. Um, the reason why we don't necessarily go this way is because ultimately it's not going to change too drastically how many displacer people use. Because if you look at it, some people, like right now, are using 3. Most of the time, I see 2 of them. So it's not going to make a massive difference on that side. But most importantly, The problem is that for those that already leveled up these units, they would get a massive advantage over newer players that didn't level it up. And that's why, in general, we try to avoid changing rarity of units. We've done it once, if you remember correctly, a year and a half ago, I think, or a year ago. And we had a lot of backlash for that. Even if people agreed that it was necessary, there was a lot of backlash for the fact that it's unfair for those that already leveled it up. And it's totally understandable. Even if at that point we did it very early after the release of the unit, so not that many players were actually impacted. But here with the displacer, it's been there for a while now, so that would definitely have a way bigger impact. Okay, we're now fighting the rootkits, which means we have pretty much 17, 18 accounts to go at this point. So again, if you have questions, if you have points you want to bring up, that's the moment. Um, anyway, I don't have a lot more that I can share, so it's either that or me talking nonsense for 17, 18 minutes at this point. Now, also, just to react, Scar, on what you were saying, another point outside of the nerf that is going to act on this is what I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream, that one of the things that is coming is a new buff system for the factions, which means that you will have changes in the meta, most likely of the game in general. So even if that's not going to have a specific impact on the displacer, it will have an impact overall with players having to change a bit the meta and how they manage things. The way we do it with the buffs and debuffs of factions, there won't be too strong buffs and too strong debuffs, but the idea would be to make it work like a rock paper scissors system. So one faction will have an advantage on another one, but they also will have a disadvantage on another one. You know, like a 5% damage increase, 5% damage resistance. And all of the factions will be this way, which means that all the factions, the factions will become something a bit more prominent than they were so far. The reason why we want to go that way is because on one side it will allow us to also have what we call the faction wars, which means at the end of an era, instead of always having the Twisted Curse event, we can alternate with an event where one faction gets a bit buffed, and pretty much, you know, we will look at the meta, see if there's one faction that is less used than all the other, and for a week or so, this faction will be pretty much a bit stronger, and that will shift the meta around a little. The other reason is because we want to link that to the commanders, um, meaning the commanders at first will be just a display thing, but we want on the longer run for the commanders to have buffs and debuffs. And so you could have pretty much buffs and debuffs or commanders that are faction related. So you could have a commander that is going to grant a certain bonus if you use units from a certain faction, which means you might want to pretty much go all in and have a lot of units from that faction to use this commander to the best of its possibilities. But at the same time, that would make you a lot weaker to a certain type of build. So you will have to decide what's your trade off if you want to go for that or not. So that's one thing we are looking into. Scar, you're saying that you never leveled up your displacer because you didn't want to add to how many were in the top meta. Yeah, I fully get that. That's fully understandable. And your only meta is making RT work with the afternoon setup. Yes, I mean, RDs, it's okay. I'm no expert on the strategies of the game, as you know. I never claimed to be, but RDs are this unit that they're so polarizing. It's like you talk about RDs and you have the guys that have pretty much always been focusing on RDs pretty much since they were introduced to the game. And then you have the people that are like, no, please don't make RDs slightly more relevant again, because if you do so, we'll see back all of those builds that we hated for so long. So there's really a love-hate relationship with artists. That's the way I see it from my position. Is that players either they love artist builds or they absolutely hate it. But there's no one that seems to just be indifferent to the artist. Uh, that's the way I see it as well, at least, and it's quite interesting to witness. Especially, I'm not really using artists that often with our builds, so I don't really have anything. I don't really have to pick a side on this battle, so it's quite interesting for me to see. I have used RDs on some of the builds for the fight nights, but it's not something I use too often. At least that from what I recall, it's not too often. So we are now fighting Rosario, and that means we have only 9 players to go. So we're getting pretty close now to the end of the stream already. Um, I'm thinking because there was something I wanted to bring up, but slipped my mind. I will get it back in a second. Scar, you're saying that you like the mechanism. So for the RDs from the beginning, the biggest issue is that you have to focus on them. If it's to be successful, you basically sacrifice making other high-level armies. Um, yeah, because from what I understand, most of the RD builds you need to have several groups of it. Like having just one doesn't make sense. So you need to have your full group of those units, which of course leveling up all of them takes a lot of time and resources. Of course, it's only the last year that you had the resources available to branch out into having other armies. Yeah, I mean that's the thing when you focus on one group of armies. That's actually something quite important that you're bringing up. It's a reflection that I've seen from a player as well the other day, which I think it's something we never really discussed with the team because we kind of took over on where Traplight left it on that question. But it might make sense at some point to see if some of the units requirements should change because some units are only relevant if you have several groups of them. There are some units you can use just one of them or two of them. Um, and I would say there are a lot of units where you will have a benefit in using several of them or several groups, but not necessarily 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you have other builds, like, I mean, the build that I have today, you have pretty much 8 groups of the same unit. And if a player wants to go that way, it's a lot of dedication to one build only, which by default wouldn't be a big problem. And that's why Traplight probably did it this way. But if we now have changes to the meta more often because we have the commanders coming, because we have the faction advantages and those kind of things, and we have the Twisted Curse event and all of those elements that are kind of pushing players to switch around with the meta and move around a bit. That means we also have to factor in that players that decided to only focus on one unit might be a bit in a trickier situation. So we will have to keep an eye on that and see if some changes might be required on that end. That's one thing I could say. And I remember what I wanted to say earlier, which I just lost again. My God, that's crazy to have. such a brain fart at the end of the stream. Um, Come on, what was it? Because when we were talking about this unit, I just thought about that again, and then it slipped my mind again. That's crazy. Yeah, that's insane. I don't know. I don't know why keeps on slipping my mind. Come on, what was it that I wanted to mention? Something that will come soon to the game as well. A small change that we're looking into. Oh, come on, that's crazy. 2 times in a row that I lose this thing. It's insane. It's insane. Man, I'm sorry, folks. I have something to say. I don't know what it is. Yeah, that it happens to the best of us. You know, I should have taken notes for that small points. It's not something big anyway. Um, Come on. Yeah, it doesn't want to come back. So it will probably come back before the stream is over. But until then, I simply can't for the life of me remember what I was about to bring up. Um, yeah, it will come back. Ultimately, it will come back. That's for sure. Yeah, I said it before that Miyumu had a very weak army, and that most likely it was gonna end this way. Miyuwu, yeah, sorry, I'm a bit late in the replay of myself on YouTube. So yeah, we are already fighting Rune 2. We will have Aldor after that, and that will pretty much be over for today. Um, so yeah, and here's one of my dogs that decided to come by and say hi. So yeah, I think you've never seen my dogs in the live streams. So usually, this guy over here is not coming too often when we have the streams. The only problem is that he's an extremely needy dog that wants affection 24/7 because it's a rescue dog. And so, yeah, right now he has decided, like, hey, I've heard you're having your final fight. So that means now you can take care of me instead of being live streaming, right? That's what you mean, huh? Ready? Yeah, it's a rescued dog from Spain. His name is Milos, by the way. And yeah, I cannot really show him to you because it's a bit too big to be brought up on my lap. Sorry, guys. Okay, anyway, guys, we're done with the fights for today. I'm gonna grant all of the rewards in a second. Yes, there we go. Everyone should have received their rewards. Awesome. You think it would be an acceptable sacrifice to the stream to have a cute dog? Okay, guys. So you know what? To end this stream, I'm gonna show you that doggy. Here he is. That's my dog. So it's not really comfortable being on the lap, as you can see. But that will be the reward for those of you that stayed until the end. This is a Podenco, which is a kind of a greyhound relative, but from Spain. And yeah, this is a rescue. He's 7 years old, and we've had him for 4 years now. Huh? And that was it. With that, we're gonna conclude the stream. Thank you guys. I'm gonna go take care of the doggy before he starts whining, because that's also one of his special ability to whine a lot when he wants attention. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining the stream. I will do my best to find back to one thing I wanted to bring up. Again, that was a small thing, so not a big deal. And thank you again. We'll talk to each other in a couple of weeks now. Thank you, guys. Bye.